Before we begin, if you love stories about powerful women reclaiming their worth, stories that blend cultures and celebrate identity, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens when Zara Thompson decides she's had enough. Now let's dive in. The champagne flute felt cold against Zara Thompson's palm as she stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, watching her husband of 3 years charm a crowd of Seoul's elite. Kwon Ji-hoon, heir to the Kwon Industries empire, had his hand resting on the small of another woman's back, the same way he used to touch her. But that wasn't what broke her. It was the laughter, his genuine laughter, the kind she hadn't heard directed at her in over a year, the kind that used to make her believe their whirlwind romance in New York was more than just a cultural experiment for a bored Chable heir. Zara set down her glass with deliberate care, the crystal making a soft clink against the marble table. Her reflection caught in the gilded mirror beside her, a stunning black woman in a custom hanbok-inspired gown that his mother had insisted was too modern, too American. The emerald silk complemented her deep brown skin, and her natural hair was styled in elegant bantu knots adorned with jade pins, a fusion she created herself. She'd spent 3 years trying to fit into a world that didn't want her. 3 years hearing whispered Korean words she'd learned meant foreigner and not suitable. 3 years watching Ji-hoon slowly transform from the man who pursued her relentlessly in Manhattan to a stranger who looked past her at family dinners. Mrs. Kwon. The voice belonged to Park Min-seo, Ji-hoon's childhood friend and the family's PR director. You look troubled. Is everything all right? Zara turned to face him, noting the calculated concern in his eyes. Min-seo had never liked her, had never bothered to hide it behind the paper-thin courtesy Korean high society demanded. Everything is perfect, Min-seo, she replied in flawless Korean, watching surprise flicker across his face. He'd assumed, like the rest of them, that she hadn't bothered to learn properly. I'm just admiring my husband's performance. He's always been good at playing a role. Before Min-seo could respond, her phone vibrated. A text from her best friend back in Atlanta. Girl, you still putting up with that mess? Come home. Home. The word hit differently tonight. Zara had left behind a thriving career as a cultural consultant, her tight-knit family in Atlanta's historic West End. Sunday dinners at her grandmother's house, where the greens were always perfect and the cornbread sweet. She'd left behind her identity, piece by piece, trying to become the wife the Kwon family could accept. She'd failed. Not because she wasn't enough, but because they'd never intended to let her succeed. The realization settled over her like a silk shawl, light but unmistakable. Excuse me, Zara said, not waiting for Min-seo's response as she walked across the ballroom floor. Her heels clicked with purpose, drawing eyes. She'd learned to move through these spaces, had studied the subtle art of Korean social grace, but tonight she walked with the confidence her mama had instilled in her. Head high, shoulders back, taking up space unapologetically. Ji-hoon was mid-sentence when she reached him, his arm still around Lee Yuna, daughter of a rival conglomerate and, according to his mother, more appropriate for someone of Ji-hoon's status. We need to talk, Zara said in Korean, her tone pleasant but firm. Ji-hoon's eyes widened slightly. He was handsome. She'd give him that. Sharp jawline. Perfectly styled black hair, expensive suit tailored to perfection. But handsomeness meant nothing when the person underneath was hollow. Zara, this isn't the time. It's the perfect time. She switched to English, her Atlanta accent coming through strong. Because I'm done pretending. I'm done with the fake smiles, the judgmental stares, the whispered insults you never defend me against. I'm done being your diversity experiment. The conversations around them died, like a wave pulling back from shore. Yuna stepped away, eyes wide with scandalized delight. This would be tomorrow's headline, in every Korean tabloid. Ji-hoon's face flushed red. You're making a scene. Good, Zara said, feeling lighter with every word. Let them see. Let them all see that the American wife finally realized she married a man with no spine. You couldn't stand up to your family. You couldn't stand up for our marriage. You can't even stand up for yourself. She pulled off her wedding ring, the 10-carat diamond that felt more like a shackle than a symbol, and placed it in his hand. I want a divorce. And unlike you, I know exactly what I'm worth. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Somewhere, a photographer's camera clicked. Zara didn't care. She turned, her gown flowing behind her like a victory flag, and walked toward the exit. Ji-hoon's mother, the formidable Madame Kwan, blocked her path. The older woman's face was a mask of controlled fury, her hanbok immaculate, every hair in place. "You will regret this embarrassment," she said in Korean. Zara met her gaze steadily. "The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner." She walked past, out of the ballroom, out of the hotel, into the Seoul night that glittered with neon and possibility. Her phone rang. It was her mother. "Baby girl," came the warm, familiar voice. "I had a feeling. You ready to come home?" Zara felt tears prick her eyes for the first time that night. "Yeah, Mama, I'm ready." "Good, because we got greens, cornbread, and a whole lot of love waiting for you. And I already called Tasha. She's got job offers lined up. You know you were always too good for him." Zara laughed, the sound breaking free like a bird from a cage. "I know that now. That's my girl. Now get on that plane. Your grandmother wants to make sure you eat properly. She says you look too thin in those pictures you send." As Zara climbed into a taxi, Seoul skyline receding behind her, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years, excited about her future. She was going home, not as a failure, but as a woman who'd finally remembered who she was. The Atlanta heat hit Zara like a warm hug as she stepped out of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport 3 days later. She'd left Seoul with 2 suitcases and her dignity. Everything else could stay in that penthouse overlooking Gangnam. "Zara." Her younger sister Imani's voice cut to the crowd before Zara saw her, and then she was being engulfed in a hug that smelled like shea butter and cocoa butter, like home. "Look at you," Imani said, holding her at arm's length. "Girl, you look tired, but you also look free. That's a good look on you." Their mother emerged from the car, elegant in a sundress and natural hair twisted up in a colorful wrap. Zara Thompson was a force of nature, a high school principal who'd raised 2 daughters alone after their father passed, who'd taught them both to never shrink themselves for anyone. "My baby," Diane said, pulling Zara close. "Welcome home." The drive through Atlanta was a sensory awakening. The music on the radio, a mix of trap and neo-soul, that soul-sanitized playlists never captured. The sight of black people everywhere, living fully, taking up space, being excellent. The sweet tea waiting in the cup holder that Imani had brought, because I know you've been drinking that weak Korean tea. Their grandmother's house in the West End was exactly as Zara remembered. The porch with the swing, the garden bursting with summer vegetables, the sound of gospel music drifting from the kitchen. There she is. Grandma Louise appeared on the porch, apron on, arms wide. "My grandbaby done left that silly boy and came on back where she belongs." That night, surrounded by family, aunties, cousins, her mother's church friends who prayed for her through it all, Zara felt pieces of herself clicking back into place. The table was covered with food: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, candied yams, cornbread, peach cobbler. Love in every dish. "So what now?" her cousin Marcus asked, passing her the hot sauce. Marcus owned a successful marketing firm in Midtown. "You coming back to work or what?" "Let the girl breathe," Aunt Cheryl interjected. "She just left a whole billionaire." "A dusty billionaire," Imani corrected. "Money don't mean nothing if a man can't stand up for his woman." Zara smiled, sipping her sweet tea. "Actually, I've been thinking. I want to start my own firm. Cultural consulting, but specialized, helping companies understand the intersection of different cultures, particularly Black American and East Asian communities. There's a gap in the market." Her mother nodded approvingly. "Now that sounds like my daughter. Using your experience for something good." And Zara continued, feeling bold, "I want to do some writing. There are so many Black women in cross-cultural relationships who feel alone, who think they have to lose themselves to be loved. I want them to know they don't." "Preach," several voices chorused. As the evening wore on, Zara found herself on the porch swing with Grandma Louise, the older woman's weather hand in hers. "You did good, baby," Grandma said. "Some lessons cost more than others." But you paid your tuition, and now you got your education. Don't you ever forget who you are for nobody. I won't, Zara promised. Never again. The next 3 months were a whirlwind. Zara threw herself into building her consulting firm, Fusion Point Consulting. Her unique experience, fluent in Korean, deeply knowledgeable about both K-culture and Black American culture, made her invaluable to companies trying to navigate the increasingly interconnected markets. Her first major client was a Korean entertainment company trying to expand into the American market. They'd been making culturally tone-deaf mistakes, appropriating Black culture without understanding or respecting it. You can't just use Black aesthetics without Black people, Zara told him in their first meeting, her presentation pulling no punches. That's not appreciation. That's exploitation. If you want to authentically connect with Black American audiences, you need to invest in Black creators, collaborate meaningfully, and understand the history and context. They hired her on the spot. Word spread quickly. Within 2 months, she had 3 more clients, including a major streaming platform developing K-drama content for American audiences and a beauty company wanting to bridge Korean skincare innovation with Black hair care needs. She hired Imani as her creative director. Her sister's marketing genius, combined with her cultural insight, was unstoppable. They rented office space in the old Fourth Ward, the walls covered with vision boards that celebrated both their heritage and their ambitions. "Sis, look at this," Imani said one afternoon, showing her phone. A Korean tabloid article translated, "Kwon Ji-hoon's ex-wife thriving after divorce, American success story." The photo showed Zara at a business dinner, confident and glowing, her natural hair in beautiful goddess locks, wearing a custom piece that mixed traditional African prints with contemporary design. "They big mad," Imani laughed. "You're out here winning while Ji-hoon is," she scrolled, apparently being pressured to marry Yuna to save face. Couldn't be you worried about saving face when you could be saving yourself. Zara barely glanced at it. Ji-hoon was her past. Her future was wide open. That future became even more interesting when she met Kim Taeyong at a cultural summit in Los Angeles. Taeyong was different from any Korean man she'd met. He was a documentary filmmaker who'd grown up in LA's Koreatown, a second-generation Korean-American who understood living between worlds. When he approached her after her panel discussion on cultural authenticity, his eyes held genuine interest, not the calculating assessment she'd grown used to in Seoul. "Your presentation was brilliant," he said, "especially the part about how true cultural exchange requires vulnerability and respect. I'm working on a documentary about third culture individuals, people who live between multiple cultural identities. Would you be interested in being interviewed?" They ended up talking for 3 hours over coffee that turned into dinner. Taeyong understood her experiences in ways Ji-hoon never had. He talked about his own struggles. Too Korean for his American friends, too American for his Korean relatives, constantly translating between worlds. "But you know what?" Taeyong said, his smile warm. "The space between cultures is where the most interesting things happen. That's where innovation lives. That's where you are. That's where you are too," Zara pointed out. "Maybe that's why I feel like I've been looking for someone like you," he said, then laughed self-consciously. "Sorry, that was too direct. My mom says I got American directness with none of the Korean subtlety." Zara laughed. "I like direct. I'm tired of games." They exchanged numbers. Over the next few weeks, text became phone calls. Phone calls became video chats. Video chats became flights between Atlanta and L.A. Taeyong never asked her to be smaller. He celebrated her loudness, her boldness, her blackness. He watched her YouTube videos about her Seoul experience and said, "This needed to be told. You're helping people." When he met her family, he showed up with flowers for her mother, remembered to ask Grandma Louise about her garden, talked basketball with Marcus, and complimented Imani's marketing portfolio. He ate everything put in front of him and asked for seconds on the greens. "Now this one," Grandma Louise whispered to Zara, "this one got some sense." It wasn't perfect. Taeyong had his own trauma from being caught between cultures, his own moments of doubt. But the difference was that he showed up for the work. They went to couples counseling proactively, learning to communicate across their different experiences. He attended anti-racism workshops to understand her experience as a black woman better. She learned about Korean American history, the nuances of generational trauma in immigrant families. "I'm not Ji-hoon," Taeyong said one night, 6 months into their relationship. "I'm not going to pretend to be perfect. But I promise you this. I will never ask you to be less than who you are. Your blackness, your culture, your strength. That's not something to tolerate. That's something to celebrate." Zara felt tears in her eyes. That's all I ever wanted. A year after Zara had walked out of that Seoul ballroom, Ji-hoon showed up in Atlanta. She was in her office when Imani buzzed her. "Sis, you're not going to believe who's in our lobby." Zara walked out to find Ji-hoon standing there, looking out of place in his designer suit, his face thinner than she remembered. "Zara," he said in Korean, then switched to English. "Can we talk?" She led him to a conference room, noting how he took in the space, the Afrocentric art on the walls, the K-pop collaboration posters, the photos of her team at various cultural events, evidence of her thriving. "What do you want, Ji-hoon?" He sat down heavily. "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I let you go." "You didn't let me go," Zara corrected. "I left. There's a difference." I know. And I've spent every day since then realizing what I lost." He leaned forward. "I called off the engagement to Yuna. I told my mother I wouldn't marry someone I didn't love just to please a family. I've been in therapy, Zara. Real therapy. Dealing with the cultural pressures, the family expectations, my own cowardice." Zara studied him. There was something different. A tiredness around his eyes, a genuineness she hadn't seen before. Growth, maybe, but it was too late. "I'm proud of you for doing that work," she said sincerely. "But you should have done it while we were married. You should have fought for us then." "I know, and I'm not here to ask you to come back. I know that ship has sailed." He pulled out an envelope. "I'm here to give you this. The divorce settlement. My lawyers want to fight it, but I told them to give you everything you asked for and more. And I wanted to apologize. In person. Without lawyers or families or expectations." He stood, bowing deeply in the Korean way, a sign of profound respect and apology. "You deserve better than I gave you. You deserve to be celebrated, not hidden. You deserve a partner, not a project. I'm sorry it took losing you to learn that." Zara felt a weight lift. The weight of anger she'd been carrying, the weight of wondering if she'd given up too easily. This was closure. "Thank you," she said, "for being honest, for growing. I hope you find someone who you can be brave for. I hope I can be brave for myself first." Ji-hoon said with a sad smile. "That's what you taught me, actually. Watching you walk away, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. You knew your worth when I was trying to convince you to accept less." After he left, Zara stood at her office window, looking out at Atlanta's skyline. Her phone buzzed, a text from Taeyong. "Finished editing your interview for the doc. You're going to change lives. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Bring in my mom's kimchi recipe and an appetite for your grandma's peach cobbler." She smiled. This was what partnership looked like. This was what love looked like when it was real. 2 years after leaving Seoul, Zara stood on a stage at the first annual Fusion Point Cultural Summit, an event her company now hosted annually. The Atlanta Convention Center was packed. 600 people from across industries, cultures, and backgrounds, all there to learn about authentic cultural exchange. Her keynote speech was titled "The Power of Walking Away, How Knowing Your Worth Changes Everything." "I married a billionaire," she began, her voice steady and strong. "And I left him with 2 suitcases and my self-respect. People thought I was crazy. A black woman from the West End walking away from money, status, security? But here's what I learned. You can't put a price on your identity. You can't build a life on a foundation of making yourself smaller." The audience leaned in. Many of them had read her viral Medium article about her experience, watched her YouTube series, Between Cultures, or followed her Instagram, where she celebrated Black excellence and cross-cultural understanding with equal passion. "I'm not anti-interracial relationships," she continued. "I'm pro-respect. I'm pro-reciprocity. I'm pro both partners showing up fully as themselves. When I left my marriage, I wasn't leaving Korean culture. I love Korean culture. I was leaving a relationship where I was expected to erase my blackness to fit in. She saw heads nodding throughout the crowd. Black women who'd had similar experiences, Asian Americans who understood the pressure of family expectations, white allies learning to be better, everyone who'd ever felt caught between worlds. Now I run a successful business, celebrating cultural fusion. I'm in a relationship with someone who sees all of me and loves all of me. I get to be black and love K-dramas. I get to speak Korean and eat my grandma's collard greens. I get to exist in the fullness of who I am. And so do you. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Backstage, Taeyong was waiting with flowers, not roses, but a beautiful arrangement of protea and Korean chrysanthemums, a fusion like them. "You killed it," he said, kissing her forehead. My mom watched the live stream. "She's crying, by the way. She says you're speaking truth." "Your mom is watching?" Zara laughed. She met his parents multiple times now, and while his mother had been cautious at first, she'd come around when she saw how happy they made each other. "Yeah, and she wants us to come to dinner next week. She's making galbi and asked if you could bring your grandmother's mac and cheese recipe because, and I quote, 'that woman knows what she's doing.'" Zara felt warmth spread through her chest. This was it. Cultural exchange as it should be. Mutual respect, mutual celebration, mutual growth. That evening at the summit after party, she stood with her team, Imani, Marcus, who joined as their business development director, 3 new consultants they'd hired, and Taeyong, who documented the whole day for a new project. To Fusion Point, Marcus raised his glass. 2 years ago, this was just an idea. Now we're changing how companies think about culture. To Zara, Imani added, for being brave enough to bet on herself. To all of us, Zara said, for building something that matters. As glasses clinked and laughter filled the air, Zara's phone buzzed. An email from a major publisher. They wanted to turn her story into a book. She showed Taeyong, who grinned. "You gonna do it?" "Yeah," Zara said. "I think I am. There are too many women out there who think they have to choose their culture or love, their identity or belonging. I want them to know they can have both, but only if there was someone who deserves them." Later that night, back at her loft in the old Fourth Ward, a space filled with African art and Korean ceramics, K-pop posters and Black Lives Matter prints, a physical manifestation of her multifaceted identity, Zara sat down to start writing. The working title, "Dumping My Billionaire Husband, How I Found My Worth in the Wreckage." She typed the dedication. To every woman who walked away from what didn't serve her, to every person living between cultures, creating new spaces of belonging, and to Grandma Louise, who always said, "Baby, you can't lose yourself loving somebody else." You were right. The book became a bestseller. Zara's consulting firm expanded to New York, LA, and yes, even Seoul, where her Seoul office was run by young Korean women who'd read her story and saw themselves in it, who were fighting for change within their own culture. She and Taeyong got engaged on the 1-year anniversary of their first meeting at that same coffee shop in LA. The wedding, when it happened, would be a fusion of cultures done right. Jumping the broom and paebik, soul food and Korean banchan, gospel music and traditional Korean drums. Ji-hoon sent a congratulations card with a note. "Thank you for showing me what courage looks like. I'm finally learning to be brave." But the most rewarding moment came when a young black woman approached Zara after a speaking engagement. "I was in a relationship with a Korean guy whose family didn't accept me," the woman said, tears in her eyes. "I was trying so hard to be perfect, to win them over. I read your book and realized I don't need to win anyone over. I need to be with someone who already sees my worth. I ended it last week. It was hard, but I feel free." Zara hugged her. "You are free, and you're going to build something beautiful with that freedom." Standing in her office, looking at the vision board that now included best-selling author, keynote speaker at UN Cultural Summit, and happy, Zara reflected on the journey. She'd walked into a Seoul ballroom 3 years ago as a woman who'd lost herself trying to be enough for someone who would never truly see her. She'd walked out knowing that she was already enough, more than enough. The billionaire husband was just a chapter. Her story was so much bigger than that, and she was just getting started. If this story resonated with you, if you know someone who needs to hear that they don't have to shrink themselves to be loved, share this video. Drop a comment below telling me your story, whether it's about cultural identity, finding your worth, or dumping someone who didn't deserve you. And subscribe, because we're building community here of people who refuse to settle for less than they deserve. Remember, you can't lose yourself loving somebody else. Know your worth. Always. Until next time, this is your reminder that you are enough exactly as you are.